Good day. My name is Mike Ehrenstein. I'm the current president of the Litigation Council of America, and I'm joined today by Senior Fellow Greg Hahn. And our topic today is about community involvement and philanthropy in our profession. Let me give you a brief intro. When I say brief, I mean a really brief introduction of Greg, because his resume is so robust that we could spend 30 minutes just talking about all of his accomplishments. I'm going to break it down into tiny pieces. First, Greg is a partner at Bose, McKinney and Evans in Indianapolis. He is a renowned trial lawyer, and he concentrates his practice in corporate and business litigation. He's represented some of the biggest clients in some of the gnarliest litigation you could possibly imagine, including Carl Icahn, Bally Gaming, Hard Rock Casinos. He's represented countries like Greece and Belize. He's represented states like Indiana and municipalities, and he's represented all kinds of interesting characters from Frank Zappa to George Steinbrenner. He has had a storied career so far, and when somebody talks about great litigators, you're not usually thinking in your mind of the sort of sweet soul who wants to sing Kumbaya with everybody, and instead you're thinking about perhaps somebody who wants to throw down in a bare knuckle brawl. But the more I get to know our fellows in the LCA and the more great trial lawyers I meet, the more I realize and have learned that those who are the most persuasive and the most successful are also the ones who have the heart to actually truly care about their community and about others. And Greg is the epitome of that. He is the great trial lawyer who, in addition to doing great work for his clients, does well by doing good, and by doing good in the community, and by doing good philanthropically. When he's not in court, Greg has devoted an enormous amount of time towards community involvement in philanthropic endeavors. And I'm just going to read from a short list, a very truncated list of some of these appointments. Greg was appointed by the mayor of Indianapolis to the Indiana Sports Corporation in 2000 and the Indianapolis Private Industry Council in 2001. He was appointed by the City County Council to the Indianapolis Public Transportation Corporation Board of Directors, and he currently serves as the president of that organization. He also serves as the vice president of the Central Indiana Community Foundation and is on the board of the Indianapolis Foundation, and he's the chairman of that board, as well as the English Foundation. He's also very involved, in addition to these community efforts, to philanthropic efforts, serving on the boards of the Starfish Initiative, the Athenaeum Foundation Board, the St. Joan of Arc Catholic Church, Area Youth Ministry Board, Board of Trustees of the University of Evansville, Washington Township Foundation Board, Pathways House, Rock Steady Boxing Foundation, which is one of my favorites, and I think it's a great organization. The Allisonville Little League, and multiple others. So with that short introduction, welcome, Greg, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Michael. I look forward to it, and I love my relationship with LCA and all the new friends and old friends we've both made over the last, I don't even know what it's been, 10 years, 12 years,
at least
15 years. You lose track.
Right.
I'm getting ready to celebrate my 50th year as an attorney next year. So sometimes it kind of all runs together.
Well, I can imagine how things would run together if I'm working as furiously and at the pace that you work. So I mean, with all of this involvement, it certainly seems like it takes a Herculean amount of stamina and energy and vigor. So, I mean, with everything that you're doing, just describe your average day for us. What time do you start? What time do you finish? And how are you ever off? And when do you sleep?
uh, I guess part of it is I grew up on a farm, small farm in eastern Indiana, right on the Indiana-Ohio line. And my dad was a World War II veteran, came back, wanted to be a farmer. And so I learned from early on, like 4 or 5, our day started at 4 in the morning. So we did everything by hand. We didn't have automated equipment. And so I got into that habit of getting up at 4 o'clock every morning. And then in the wintertime, when I turned about 8 or 9, we lived on a small river. He decided we were going to be trappers. So we put out trap lines, and he had to get up at 2 to run the trap lines before he went down to feed the cattle, the hogs, the chickens. So I have never gotten out of that pattern, even through college, law school. I've always gotten up at 4, 4:30 and went at it. And so that's where I got it. And I enjoy it. I get more done between 4 and 8 or 9 in the morning than I do probably the rest of the day. Because I've got that, I'm not being interfered. People aren't trying to get a hold of me or whatever. So
you start your day bright. Well, I wouldn't say bright, dark and early.
Yeah.
And how long do you go for? I mean, I know for me, I wake up really early, like not 2 o'clock, but I'm up at 4. I go do some working out and get into the office by 6:30. But I got to tell you, for me, I'm back home by 4 in the afternoon, and I'm starting to get tired.
Yeah.
When do you shut down?
I usually go to about 9 or 10.
You're still working?
Yeah. I mean, I do. I try to go work out and do something every day. I have a lot of meetings that don't even start till 4:30 or 5. And that's either with the boards I'm on or with client dinners, or client meetings. And so, yeah, that's pretty typical, 4 to 10.
So what is it that motivates you to spend so much of your energy and your time on your community involvement in philanthropic endeavors? I mean, you could be spending just as much of that time making more money, right? Or
I guess, well,
or doing other things.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I've had an incredible career and the opportunity to work with some incredible people, and had some very good results. So that's given me the ability to do a lot of these other things, which obviously, I don't get paid for them, but my parents were both very involved in our little community where I grew up. They served on the library board, the Carnegie Library, like most communities had, the airport authority. My dad was on the school board there for 26 years, I think. He was on the draft board when we had the draft. And my mom was a nurse, and she was involved in a lot of the nurse organizations. So, and my dad was involved in a lot of the farm, prairie farmers, and on and on and on. So I grew up with it, where I saw not only were they working, obviously a farmer works from dawn to dusk, and my mom was a nurse, and she worked what we called the hoot owl, 11 at night to 7 in the morning, and then spent pretty much the rest of the day, helping my dad or doing these other things. So
So part of your motivation, I guess, comes from the work ethic and that you grew up with on the farm and the example that your parents set.
Right.
And also from the recognition that, who I think it is, as Warren Buffett said, if you're in the luckiest 1% of humanity, you have sort of a tug at the heart to try to help the other 99%.
Yeah, and I mean, I just firmly, and I'd say my religion too, and I think all religions emphasize that those who have been blessed have a duty to give back, and my wife and I do that, financially as well as putting time and effort into charities.
So with all of this work that you're doing with the charities and with the community and civic organizations, can you share with us an example or two of how of one or two examples where you've really felt like you've made a meaningful impact and how that made you feel?
It's interesting. You mentioned Rock Steady. I was one of the founders of that. It
Really?
started here in Indianapolis. Yeah.
I had
And
no
now
idea.
we have over, I think, 600 operations around the world. I had no idea what I was getting into. I was asked by a former U.S. attorney who had Parkinson's to come on this board with two neurologists here in Indianapolis, two young ladies who have ended up being the leading Parkinson disease doctors in the world.
Why don't start by telling us what Rocksteady is.
Rocksteady is a exercise program that emulates boxing and working out like boxers do, and it is now proven to be extremely helpful with people who have Parkinson's and able to regain their coordination, regain their speech. Now, it's not a cure in any way, but obviously going from the one we started here in Indianapolis to now 500 or 600. And it's funny you said that because another one of our members, Joe Donnelly, came up with Parkinson's, and he went to the one in Pittsburgh, and he saw my name on the founders thing. He goes, "I didn't know you didn't do it." I said, "Yeah, well, I'm not on the board anymore." I went off of it after about 8 years. It just got, but that's been really neat to see and how it's grown and taken a life of its own and done so much good.
It's done a lot of good. It really has.
The other thing is I helped start another organization called Starfish here in Indianapolis, which also has gone national. And myself and 4 other guys, we have a fund here in Indiana called the Century 21 Fund. And Century 21 was set up by Governor Evan Bayh, and it was a fund to help poverty level kids go to college. And I won't go through all the qualifications, but long story short, when you're in the 8th grade, we ask counselors to try to identify kids who are from poverty level families, which is under 40,000, that have the gumption and the drive to go to college, and most of them have never been, none of their families ever been. And if they meet certain criteria through high school, and it's not a huge hurdle, it's like a 2.8 in high school, and then they got to do community activity. I mean, there's a whole laundry list. They will get a 4-year full ride to college in Indiana, any state school. So that's how we started. And now almost all the private schools honor it as well. And then what we do at Starfish, we don't provide any of the money for them. We provide the staff that works with them, counsels, tutors, and on and on and on. And then we found out we also had to do it through college because a lot of the cultural differences have grown up where they've grown up. You can get over the hurdle in high school because they're with peers, so to speak. But then when they get to college, it's a whole new ball game. And we found out a lot of them are just lost and didn't feel like they belonged. And so we extended it then to college, the tutoring and the mentoring. And the mentoring's the biggest part.
So you've obviously had huge impact helping to better your community and better the lives of others. But what is it? I mean, how does that relate to our profession? What is it about our profession that makes you fit these roles, or what is it about these roles that make them fit you and our profession?
Well, I think number one, we all, for the most part, and especially when we're in the practice and in the firms, we're our own boss, so to speak. We're entrepreneurs. We can set our own time limits and when we want to get things done, other than the court directed activity. So you got a flexible schedule, and also I think most people on boards, a lot of them don't have any legal background. They're volunteers, and so they're always looking for people who can add professional advice or oversight, and see problems that none of them would ever see. And I'd say accountants are probably another group that I see get a lot involved on boards and fill the same role. I mean, we're sitting there and they may not see the train coming down the track. And several times, in fact, I'm involved in a couple right now, where they'd already done something that created a real problem, but had no idea.
Right. So as a lawyer, as lawyers, we can add value to community organizations and philanthropic organizations because we have the ability to spot some red flags that maybe others might not.
Exactly. Well put.
Right. And in terms of to me, it feels like, and maybe tell me if you disagree or agree with this, but it feels like there is something about our profession, about its more noble aspects, that drives a number of the most successful amongst us into these positions with community organizations and philanthropic boards. And I'm curious if you agree with that, and if so, what is it about being a lawyer, about the soul of the lawyer, that makes the lawyer and the trial lawyer in particular want to assume these roles?
Well, I think part of it is our educational background. I think law school gives you a broader perspective on life. I mean, I talk to people all the time, either the kids or the parents, about, my child's interested in law school, but, I hear it's really hard and, and the jobs are limited. And I said, you know what? Going to law school is the best education you could ever get because it exposes you to every aspect of life. And it gives you an oversight into government, into business, into a relationship between employees, employers, and on and on and on. So it's a tremendous education. And I think, and then you get just being a trial lawyer, as you know, we have a ton of life experiences that we get, in subjects that we would never have the opportunity to even be involved in, that come about because of litigation or, confrontation between parties. And you learn something. That's what's so exciting, is you learn so much about so many different aspects of society and of business. I mean, that's why I enjoy everything I do, because I'm always doing something different and learning. It's
Right.
never a dull moment. It's not like we're in one lane and we can't get out of that lane. We're all over the place. Right.
I agree 100% with that. I'm never bored, and like you, I think we're very fortunate to do what we do because it's always exciting. It's always
Right.
changing. Um, I want to thank you for having taken the time to speak with us a little bit about community involvement and philanthropic involvement and our profession as trial lawyers. Is there anything else you'd like to wrap up with before we conclude?
Oh, I just think that our profession continues to evolve. You made a comment earlier about how we approach our profession, or how we approach what we do as lawyers. And I will tell you, I had really good mentors coming up through the ranks, and I learned early on that you get a lot more done by using honey than vinegar. And I think for the most part, I've had some clients disagree, that a lot of, as you know, some clients want to, attack, destroy, not 1 cent for tribute, but millions for defense. And you let them go for a while until they start seeing the millions in defense.
Right.
And which we've seen. And then but you never burn the bridges with the other attorneys or the other people on the other side. And I will tell you that some of my best friends today are guys that I was in the cases against 30 or 40 years ago. And I'll get a phone call. I just got one the other day from a guy I hadn't seen in years. In fact, I'll tell you, it was a friend of Steve Henry's from Birmingham.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, called me and said, "Hey, we got a big thing coming down in Indianapolis and we need help immediately, and haven't talked to you in 25 years, but can you help me?" Absolutely.
But I remember the shellacking you gave me 25 years ago. Can you help me?
I actually don't remember. To be honest. I remember him, but anyway, and I think that that's the one thing. I think the civility. I think the younger lawyers got to practice more on civility. And I tell our young people, pick up the phone and call people. Don't just use, email and text and whatever to communicate. I mean, you have to have, and I know that's really been hard the last 2 or 3 years, but you got to have that personal relationship, I believe. And I think it really helps. Even in, I'm just on a call before this on a mediation we're trying to set up on this giant case. And they were talking, well, should we do it on Zoom? And I said, no, we need to be in front of these people with the mediator. I mean, you just lose the personality and the feel, I think, if you're on Zoom or Teams all the time.
Right.
So
I agree with that 100%. Nothing better than being in person.
right.
And, you were mentioning civility and the importance of the human connection. That human connection for 2 things. One is your fellow Indianapolisite or Indianapolinite, Adam Arsenault.
Oh yeah.
He is the epitome of civility. And
Yeah.
he gave an interview all about civility a little while ago, which was
Okay.
very well received. And the other thing is that human connection that you're referring to when you're talking about civility and talking about why people need to be in the same room to mediate. I believe that that's the same thing at the core of it. That humanity is what drives us as lawyers to be involved with our communities and to be involved with the less fortunate.
I agree 1,000%.
I think that's kind of unique to our profession.
Yeah, and Adam is a great example of that. I mean, Adam's on the board of, you mentioned the Indianapolis Foundation, and the Indianapolis Foundation is like the mothership of a group of other foundations with about 1.2 or 3 billion. One of the largest, 20th largest in the top 20 in the United States, founded over 100 and some years ago. Adam's on the board of the Hamilton County Foundation, which is under and I'm chairman of that foundation right now. So, so Adam's doing kind of the same stuff. And I know he wants to get more involved. I'm gonna get him as involved as he wants to be. So
Maybe more so.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Greg, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and your wisdom. We really appreciate it. And last plug. I'm really looking forward to seeing you and Libby in person with every other fellow in the LCA who can make it in San Diego for our first in-person meeting in October.
We have every plan to be there, believe me.
Awesome.
We've already booked our room and everything. So
good. Great. Thank you.
okay. Hey,
all right.
Michael, thank you. I enjoyed doing this.